Hey guys, I'm Rebecca Martinez and let's make some healthy vegan conchas. To start, in a high-speed blender, add 250 grams of soy milk, 150 grams of warm milk, and 15 to 20 medjool dates, depending on how sweet you want your conchas. Add 2 flax eggs, which is just some flaxseed, mixed with water or almond milk, and 1/4 to 1/2 cup of coconut butter. It can be ideally warmed, but cold is fine. Add a teaspoon of vanilla powder or extract if you don't have it, but I highly suggest investing in this kind of stuff, even if it's a little bit more on the expensive side, because it's so much better. Now blend until completely smooth. Put all of your dry ingredients, which I will leave in the description once more, and combine them in a stand mixer with the wet ingredients you prepared until the dough gets nice and tacky. You want it to cling off of the sides of the KitchenAid or the stand mixer in general, and then let it rise for about an hour to 2 hours, depending on the kind of yeast that you use and the temperature in your house. Now in a food processor, we're going to pit 8 to 10 medjool dates, making sure that the pits don't make it in because it'll make a lot of noise, and you compost them or make date coffee, that's a thing. And add 3 tablespoons worth of soy milk to the food processor and process until the dates start to crumble up into very small, almost 1 centimeter pieces. Add 1/3 cup of almond butter. You can choose any nut butter or even coconut butter if you prefer. Coconut butter is a little bit higher in saturated fat, so I chose to use a nut butter instead, and blitz it until it starts to create a really smooth texture. At this point, the dates will really start to thin out, and be careful not to lose your food processor along the way, as I almost did, since it was going so quickly and almost fell off the table. Now add a pinch of cinnamon or any kind of spice that you prefer. I feel like ground cardamom would work beautifully here. A little bit of almond extract too, but because I love this sort of stereotypical chocolate concha, I also added 3 tablespoons worth of unsweetened cacao powder or cocoa powder, whichever one you have on hand works just fine. Once you add it, give it a quick mix until everything is nicely combined. And the final ingredient will be to add a 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons worth of whole wheat flour. You can alternatively use almond flour, but since I already put almond butter in it, I just chose to use whole wheat flour. The traditional one is also made with like sugar, butter, and flour. It's just the kind of topping that's made. After it's nicely pureed, take it out, put it with a little bit of additional whole wheat flour until it forms a nice ball, and set it aside. At this point, your dough will be nicely doubled in size, and on a nicely floured workspace, take it out of the KitchenAid bowl and start to deflate it and degas it. Once it starts to look nicely shaped, add a little bit of flour and weigh it, because we need to separate the dough into 6 equal portions. Take your bench scraper ideally, or you can also use a knife and divide into 6 equal pieces, making sure to measure each piece out to ensure that the baking works very well at the same time and the same temperature for each individual concha. Now to shape the concha, you take one of the sections and you start pulling the dough towards the center, almost as if you were to form a pita bread, and then you just smooth it out either in your hands or using the floured workspace. Both work. There are multiple ways of doing this technique, but either way, what you want to create is some tension in the dough and in the bread until it's nicely taut and it sits on the table without spreading too much. Once you have 6 equal sections, we're going to start working with the it's almost a paste. This is the traditional sort of term for the concha topping, the sugar paste. But since we're not using sugar and it's mainly whole food ingredients, I kind of just call it a topping. I like to give it a light dust because we're going to be weighing it out and also separating it into 6 equal pieces, in addition to rolling it out to a beautiful sort of thin pasty mat, if you will. It's got like a matte texture to it. It's really beautiful to work with. And so do this first by measuring it out, separating into 6 equal pieces, and then we'll start by adding a little bit of flour to a rolling pin and basically just rolling out a bit of a circular shape because this will go on top of the concha. It'll almost look like a pancake, and set it aside once you've worked with all 6 individual pieces. Now in a baking tray with parchment paper or a baking mat, add all 6 of your individual conchas, and then take your 3 middle fingers and start to flatten each concha into almost like a thick pancake, or it also looks like an English muffin. It's kind of a strange but also very beautiful shape that took me a while to figure out how to make because some recipes just don't include it, and so just trial and error, my friends, it helps a lot. With the paste or the sort of topping of the concha, add a little bit of soy milk to one side to ensure that it sticks on top of the bread. Do this to all 6 of the individual conchas and let them rise and rest for 30 to 45 minutes covered with a tea towel. After they've slightly risen, they shouldn't be too large. You're going to take a concha mold. You can also do this with a knife, but a concha mold is the easiest way to do it, and slap it on there. I was a little too gentle. Honestly, you can really just kind of pound it on top as long as the concha mold is nicely floured. I get a little hesitant because I don't want to deflate the bread, but it really doesn't matter. Now there will be some extra sort of sugar paste or medjool date paste on the exterior edges of the concha. You can either choose to scissor these off as I do here, or just kind of tuck them underneath. I prefer the tucking underneath method because if you've already gone through all that work, you might as well save the beautiful thing you created. Now brush with a little bit of soy milk, almost as if to be a glaze, and then you're going to bake these conchas at 375 Fahrenheit 190 Celsius for 22 to 25 minutes, making sure to turn the baking tray halfway in order to ensure a nice and even bake. These conchas are truly delightful. They're much healthier than the original version, and they're very nostalgic, and I hope you really do enjoy them. You can change the recipe as you'd like, make the topping vanilla or stick with the traditional chocolate, serve it with some Mexican hot chocolate, and share with family. Be sure to subscribe, guys, for more videos every Friday.